Hello, 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 hello.
Yeah, thank you so much. And good afternoon. And today I'm introducing rank holder Sanketh Kumar and having 35 rank, All India 35 rank. Yeah, please, Sanketh. Yeah, he's Sanketh. You can have a lot of things to learn from him. He's having a different, uh, way of the preparation. He has cleared his rank in second attempt. Of course, he has written mains also in first attempt. Definitely, he has prepared his PPT as well, and I can expect he has lot of information. Yes, different rank holders will have a different ways of the preparations. So according to his preparation, if somebody is going to be fit with him, try to follow the same, basically, right? I'm not trying to say you should not follow the same, but if you are able to fit with his ideology, you should also try because he's a successful person. Since he's already got success, obviously that also may work for you. That's a guess. Thank you. Thank you so much. And give a possible lot of information to the point of the mathematics also. If somebody can ask even some general studies related information also, tell definitely. And chalo, thank you.
ऐसे ही रहेगा ओके ओके let's start. Okay, hello everyone, how is everybody? How is the Josh? Hi. Okay, great. So okay, let's do a couple of questions. तो इस बार प्रीलिम्स किसने क्लियर किया? नहीं, एवरीबॉडी इज फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट क्या अभी? ओके, ये नहीं दिखेगा ना? ठीक है, ओके. और ओके, सो हाउ लॉन्ग हैव यू बीन प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर मेन मैथ्स ऑप्शनल? आवाज़ नहीं आ रही मेरे को एक भी. 2 months, 1 year 1 week. ओके, सारे सब लोग हैं यहाँ पे. ठीक है, ग्रेट. ओके, so I think I don't have to tell you why mathematics optional is important, not just for the sake of the optional, but if you have seen this year's CSAT, तो I think idea लग गया होगा कि we are in a very lucky place compared to anybody else, any other optional people also. So that way also it's very important, right? And I hope English is fine with everybody, right? I think a lot of people are also watching, and if Hindi is also fine, we'll do questionnaire in Hindi. So that's also something we can do. So I have tried to incorporate. I have gotten a lot of suggestions from a lot of people, and I've tried to incorporate everything to as to how to go about the optional right from the start until the very end. So I have put in a lot of work here. So please be with me until the end of the session, and then we'll take questions after that. If something urgent arises, please feel free to stop in between also, but I think majority has been covered as well, right? So let's begin. Uh, okay, so this is a just brief description of what I have done before. So I've done my BTech, and then I've also worked for 1 year in Japan. Then I've also done my master's from IIT Delhi. So I've been in Delhi for the last 6-7 years, and I prepared from here itself. And so this was my second attempt. So I exactly 2 years before these results were pronounced, I remember I was sitting in the last bench there, although I didn't last long in this classroom, but that's how I started. And so I have given 2 attempts, and in my first attempt I got around 227 marks, and in my second attempt it was 295. So almost a 70 mark jump, right? So we'll talk about how we can improve our marks, how we can do better in maths than everybody else, right? Okay. So I think anybody has done partial differential equations here? No? Anybody? Please lift your hands. Nobody? Acha, theek hai. Okay. So this is called a diffusion equation. You will see, you will read about it when you do your partial differential equation. So let's just start with some thought experiment. So I think this is the number of days, 365 days. I've tried to simulate uh, preparation of few aspirants like you and me. And so we'll see, we'll start the simulation. Okay. So you'll see some people, so each color represents every aspirant, like you and me. I'm green, you're blue, other one is red. So some people are going up, some people are going down. That means somebody who's going up is doing learning something, and somebody who is going down is doing not doing something that is required to be done, right? So some people keep on learning and they'll go up and up and above, but some people do learn, come back, then go up and again. So there are a lot of people, lot of aspirants, lot of different strategies that are being followed. But what is our final goal is that we have to be somewhere in this very sweet spot that I have indicated, like these two, with these two black lines, right? So if you see, some people who don't do anything are going down, right? These are the people who will attend the class, who will not study, or he'll not take test, people like that. So I'm not even talking about them. I'll talk about people who are going up, and the people who are going above the line that is required. I think they are some people who will do more than required, which is not required for this examination, which you will see why this is the case also. And there will be very few people who will fall in between. So this is the range where you have to be in. Okay? Do learn whether you be in this in between these two lines now or later. Let me just, so yeah, so whether you end up in those in the two lines, in between those two lines, in the beginning itself or at the end, that is your strategy. Some people will come and then go back and then come up, so they are learning from their mistakes. And some people who have figured out the strategy, they'll go into the line and they'll keep working at a constant pace. So after you see, so almost 30 people I have started as aspirants, and almost I think in this simulation only 3 people are left. And in civil services examination, the percentage is very less, 0.001%, right? So you have to be in that zone. If you do more, you're still going to lose out. You're doing less, you're going to lose out again. Okay, so I've taken this example just because this is one application of the partial differential equation that you will see. So just something that is fun. So you see, very few make it. Right. So let's start with the most important part, that is note taking. And I don't think my journey would have been half complete if I have had not done note making. And so let's see what is happening. So first, okay, so notes. Of course, you have received your set of notes. I think it is this high, right? And then you add a lot of textbooks to it. Then you add a lot of content from YouTube or other websites, whichever it is. And then some of you are taking coaching here. So the content keeps building up. And what you need to do, suppose you are in the, you're writing for mains. You have done your general studies, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, general studies papers you have given, and you have mathematics optional in the next Saturday and Sunday. So you have 5 days in between. How will you cover this entire tower of books in the 5 days? That is number one. Then you will take tests, lot of mock tests. Suppose you're taking mock tests of paper one. Paper one is 6 chapters. 6 chapters might be this much. Okay? And in the afternoon, you will take paper two mock test. Then more 7 more chapters. So how will you revise the entire thing? Right? And you see, a lot of sources contain a lot of information, and they don't also contain a lot of information, right? So you need to be absolutely very brutal here to sort and filter out only those kind of content which is exactly applicable to this information in this for this examination. So I'll tell you the kind of note strategy that I followed. First is get your own sources. I'll elaborate on what my sources were, but first be very clear about what your sources are. I'll give you all the sources for each and every chapter of the examination, right? So it's your IMS notes, it's your reference textbooks like MD Rai Singhania or any other YouTube videos that you're keeping watching, and coaching as well, right? So first, be clear about your uh, sources, right? Once you're done with, I think, yes. Acha, theek. So once you're fine with your sources, I don't think you'll have a problem with that. The first step is the easiest step. Now, what I have done in my case is that I wrote down, so I have to my goal was to bring down everything, something from this size to this size, maybe a 500 pages note to less than 20 pages notes. That's how my compression ratio was. So first, what I would write down is that I would write all the core concepts, all the core formulae, all the core, tricks and tips or whatever that I'm seeing related to that particular topic. So let's start with the syllabus. You have linear algebra, right? In that you have vectors and matrices. So I'll take one keyword or one or two keywords, right? Then I will write all the formulae related to that keyword. Then what I'll do, the next step is that, okay, I have written down the formulae. In case if it's physics, then I have written down the concepts. Then I will solve one or two questions related to that particular concept, right? So what I have done until now, okay, linear algebra, similar matrices is the concept. I'll write the formula, whatever similar matrices are or orthogonal matrices are. Then I'll solve a couple of questions. Then I'll do PYQs. So now take out your books which has previous year questions. Take out all the questions that are related to that particular topic, right? And do the questions there itself. Okay. And I tell you why I'm telling you to write PYQ solutions here itself. There are many advantages to this, but let's talk about that later. But yeah, do solve your PYQs. And for each very small topic, you will hardly have around 5-6 questions, not more than that. And I'm talking post 2013. So since 2013, the paper pattern has changed. Some of the syllabus also has changed in my, I think, as far as I know. So 2013, and if you're appearing for next year, 2013, 2022, it's almost 10 years. For each subtopic, you will have 6 or 7 questions. Just do all of them. And then if you find next, so this will become your notes 2, 3, and 4, right? Now when you move to the next step, that is you start taking tests or you refer to other textbooks or you refer to any other source, you will find some new kind of tricks or new kind of questions that you might not have heard before, that you feel like, okay, this is something that needs to be done, that is a probable question that might come in the next examination, right? So you can add those things in your notes itself. So what I used to do, I used to write it with a black pen, and if something special comes up or some kind of trick comes up, I always used to look for tricks which will make my solution be completed in a very small time. So I used to look for things like that. So those things I used to note down later. And one last thing, when you do your notes, make sure that you remember these 3 points. One is to make absolutely concise notes. The smaller, the better, but without losing the information that you need for this examination, right? Then cover everything that's related to CSE. So these two are the boundary conditions, 1 and 2. And finally, discard everything that's not related to CSE. Okay. So I'll show you one example of my notes. So this is the principle of virtual work. So this comes under statics section. I hope it's visible. So if you look at any reference book like Krishna series, principle of virtual work is given over, I think, dozens of pages. But I have captured, and they will not explain to you what is happening in this particular concept. So once you go through all the problems or all the exact principle of virtual work will be divided into many pages. So it'll give you everything in little by little excerpts. So what you can do, once you do that, you combine everything. And when I did that, it came in one point. It came in one page. So that's what it was. And the red things I used to do are some special formulae or something where I have to use plus and minus. So those are the things I used to highlight. And this is the only 6-step procedure in this case that I have to know to do any question which has application of principle of virtual work, right? So once I wrote down the concept and formula in one page, right? Then I did some question related to that. So I chose a question such that it has all the concepts covered, all concepts, examples, or concepts, all tricks covered. So I used to do physics in such a way that it's easy. So if you take any book, it's going to be black and white. And that is something that I could never understand. So I note down all the forces. I used to write all the points that, I thought that I should be taking care of, because without that, then I don't think I'll learn anything from any book. Okay. So this is my idea of how I should remember physics and also be able to, reproduce in the smallest time. Then I wrote questions, 1 or 2 questions, concepts, questions, and finally I solved the PYQs. So this is also I solved a PYQ. So I think in the last 10 years, only 2 questions were there from uh, principle of virtual work. So that's my job is done for this particular subtopic. So I think this is a very easy procedure. All of this hardly takes time. So initially it might take time you to get into this procedure, and but you can make your. So this is one kind of. This is what I did. You can do some kind of variations to this. That's your choice. But this initially it might take some time, but hardly, if I write this now, the whole thing for this particular topic will hardly take 2 to 3 hours, 2 hours, less than 2 hours for this. So you keep on doing, you will finish it in very little amount of time. And if I just don't remember anything related to this particular principle, I'll just go back and look at this. It will hardly take 5 minutes for me. I'm done with uh, that particular topic, right? So note taking, it's absolutely important. Make sure you make your own notes. Don't rely on anybody else's notes, and make sure that it's you who you understand the notes the most, nobody else, right? And I will share my notes also so that you can see see them for reference later. Okay. And you have to, I think this is also very important when it comes to especially physics topics, because physics topics are very difficult to understand, and they need, and if you see every question in physics, they actually are, the books are trying to actually explain a lot of topics in a very difficult manner, very complicated manner. But if you go back, every question is solved by very basic fundamental laws of physics. So I used to write down each and every step where fundamental law is applied. That's how I simplified my entire process of learning physics. So these are some of the things that you can do, but I think once you get into the process, you'll keep exploring. Okay. Now, so I'll talk about the sources. Let's start with linear algebra. Okay. So this is the most easiest, and you know, I mean, even if suppose you're all sure that you'll take mathematics optional, but even if you're not sure, what I usually suggest to people who are in a dilemma whether to face whether to take mathematics optional or not, is that you go with linear algebra. Start with that. It has two parts: vector vector algebra and matrix algebra. Start with matrix algebra, and if you're very comfortable doing that in the next 10-15 days, then I think you can go ahead with your mathematics optional preparation. So it's two ways. One is for outsiders who want to choose whether this mathematics optional is for them, and for second set of people who want to see whether, who want to first get into that. I'm sure that a lot of people are coming out of graduation and they have had a lot of big break of doing mathematics, or somebody might have left doing mathematics in 12th class itself, right? For those kind of people, I would suggest to start with linear algebra, and this is a very easy topic. It will be finished in very small amount of time, and it will have a lot of it will get you into that process of calculations. So please start with linear algebra. And the sources are again IMS notes, and I used, so IMS notes in this case are more than enough. But if you want to even get further, sometimes, so I did this course called MIT by Gilbert Strang linear algebra. This person is the person who actually started the field of linear algebra. So he himself teaches, and it's a 40 lecture course, but in the first 5-6 videos are the only videos that we need for this preparation. So he teaches very nicely, and I think after some point you can just look at matrices and just some kind of matrices, and you can just tell the inverse itself. So that's how you, I mean, you just have, if you want to sharpen, otherwise the notes itself are more than enough in this case. And I'll talk about the use of calculator later. Okay, next comes calculus. So calculus is the second topic. It's also again an easy topic. So easy I've indicated with a green. Okay. So calculus, the first and foremost thing that should come to your mind when you do calculus is that calculus is a topic that is not independent of other topic. It is partly connected, partly, not partly, but mostly connected with the real analysis topic that is there in paper 2 section A. Okay. So whenever you do calculus, you always go back and forth with real analysis and see, do it together only. That's what I would suggest, right? And secondly, so the sources are IMS notes and Malik and Arora. So this is forms the basic content. Malik and Arora has a lot of good examples that UPSC asks directly from. So do a lot of questions from here. Okay. And one important thing is that there are some, so if you look at the syllabus that is given by UPSC, each topic has some subtopics. And there are some subtopics like asymptotes, curve tracing, polar coordinates and all. And these are those kind of topics which, if you go and find in your PYQs, previous year's questions, in the last 10 years, you will hardly find one question. You'll hardly, this question, there was no question in the last 10 years, but it appeared in 2022. the mains that I have given, right? And polar coordinates is one of those obscure topics. But these are the topics which you don't usually get questions from. But suddenly what happens is UPSC these days is trying to get questions from these kind of areas. There are other chapters also where such topics are there, which everybody ignores, but there will be a 10 marker question, which is a compulsory question. And if you haven't done that, you straight away lose 10 marks. So that 10 marks is going to cost you a lot. So 1 mark, 10 ranks in the exam. So 10 into 10, 100 ranks, you're gone, right? So don't ignore such questions. And especially these are the topics you should not ignore. These are also, why people ignore these topics is the fact that because of the fact that these are a little difficult. There are no PYQs and the topic is little difficult to understand. So why should I do that, right? So what you can do all the important topics first and leave these for later, right? So that's how you can go with that. But don't leave anything, especially in topics like this, because they have a very low cost, high benefit ratio. So do it whenever, today or tomorrow, but do them. Okay. Next comes 3D geometry. It's a little difficult on the difficult side from section A. You do IMS notes or PN strategy. Both are simultaneous. Like do either one. One is sufficient. Okay. So the biggest difficulty with this is that it's very heavy topic. There are too many concepts to understand, starting from a line, then a plane, to skew lines and generating lines and two-dimensional, three-dimensional figures and so on. And when I say two-dimensional and three-dimensional, automatically some image might have come to your mind. So that brings me to the another point in this particular topic is that you need a lot of imagination to go about this particular topic, right? So sometimes, line is the first chapter, then you go to plane, that's fine. Now when you go to ellipsoid, three-dimensional curve, then it's being cut by some plane, then there are some points. So questions will be framed in a lot of multiple dimensions, right? And it gets very, very difficult to imagine what is happening. So when you start your preparation initially, I would suggest to use some kind of 3D graphing calculator. So you just put the equation, just Google what 3D graphing calculator is, and you will get, if you put in the equation, you will just have a lot of images coming, three-dimensional images coming up. And you can also interact, move the plane, see how many points are being cut, how many surfaces are being generated, whether the cut surface is a circle or an ellipse or a parabola. So things like that. If you have a difficulty, then definitely make use of the internet as a resource, right? So that's is something that you can do. And finally, there is a topic, again as obscure as these topics, which is the canonical form. Again, if you look at PYQs, I think there was one PYQ in 2015 or 16. And in the last 10 years, there was one or two questions from this. And very obscure, a little difficult to do also. It's explained in a very, 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 very complex manner in your any book, in your book. So then I struggled with that particular topic a lot. But then when I sat down and I saw, okay, this is what is happening, and I tried to make a flowchart. So there are a lot of conditions. So if this is positive, those terms are negative. Then if it's positive, then this is negative. Then you get an ellipsoid. Then you get something else. So this is particular concept is about how to decide what equation represents which kind of 3D curve. Okay. So it's a very, too many cases are there. But I sat down and I made a flow chart, and then my entire, I think, 50 pages notes in the book was, concised, compressed to one single page in my notes. That's all it takes. So I think you need to spend enough time in these kind of topics. Don't ignore topics. When you actually can sit down, when you actually can do some work, if it takes some work to, simplify a big Herculean task, then why not put the work? And it's just one-time investment, right? So I would say it's totally going to be worth it. Okay, and you can refer to Atul Prakash. So this guy, I think, scored 360 or something in 2000, back in 2016 or 17. So he also has also shared a lot of notes from all the topics. So he has also made flowcharts of it. You can refer to those notes as well. Okay, should I skip? Right. So now coming to paper 1, set B. Okay, ordinary differential equations. I think a lot of people have done this by now, right? Okay. So again, this is again an easy topic. I wouldn't say easiest, but I put in yellow because it's on a, why? Because it's easy, but a lot of people make mistakes here. Whether you factorize your differential equation, the differential operators, or when you take reciprocal equations, or when you find particular integrals, a lot of mistakes can happen. And I think I made such mistake too in my first attempt. So be very careful when you solve such questions, and practice as many questions as possible. Okay. And one resource is MD Rising. And you do your static whatever, do your take your content from IMS notes and do a lot of questions from MD Rising Anya. I used to practice almost 7 out of 10 examples given in this book for this, right? And now coming to the why I wrote this expect questions with marks point is that, see, when you do take any example, for example, uh, equation. So there is this topic called equation of first order, but not of first degree. Okay. So now when you solve questions from that particular topic, you will find that some questions are taking half a page of solution. Some questions are taking 2.5 page solution, right? So how do I know in how much time I have to do this? So what I used to do, I used to go quickly to the PYQs, previous year's questions, and see, okay, some kind of questions which involve short formulae, they are being asked for 10 marks or even less than 10 marks. Some big, larger questions with larger solutions or some kind of special substitutions, they are being asked for 15 marks or even 20 marks. Okay, so 10 marks means I will have 10 marks per question, around 6 minutes, 7 minutes you will have. And for 15 marks, you will have 11, 12 minutes, right? So I used to time, okay, so if this is a smaller question, I have to finish it within 6 minutes. Okay. If it's a larger question, it's being asked for 15 minutes, then I have to finish between 12 minutes. Okay. I will talk about the timing also later. But whenever you're doing questions, also know that in how much time you're expected to do those questions as well. Okay. So by practice, there was some question I remember. I used to take 15 minutes to solve that question in calculus. But I realized that, okay, I have only 8 minutes. Last 2-3 years, that question was asked before, 2-3 times. And I think it was every time it was asked for put in a section which had only 8 minutes for it. So I practiced and practiced and practiced, and then I could get down my speed to 6 minutes. So that is also something you need to take care of. But comes at a later stage, not now. But just keep in mind that, okay, if question is being asked, okay, there is certain time limit also to this. Okay. Pani hai kya? Okay. So we are done with OD. Then comes statics and dynamics. Okay. So again, the sources are either use IMS notes or Krishna series. Anyone is fine. Okay. But now, let me talk about the physics part. I think this is one of the biggest nightmares to a lot of people who are preparing with maths optional, is that physics is a very difficult topic, and I indeed agree. But let's go a step further. When was the last time you studied physics? I think it was in 11th and 12th, right? It's not even 12th. These kind of topics have been taken from your 11th class syllabus only. Okay. So, when I started first doing physics, I took out the Krishna series book. I started solving questions. First question, there is one concept. Second question, there is another concept. Third question, there is another concept. I was like, what is happening? I can't solve questions like this. I just have to, mug up everything. I mugged up, then I tried mugging up. I mugged up the first question, then second question. Then by the time I mugged the third question, I forgot the first one. So what is the solution to this? Then I was like, okay, this is some topic. So let's talk about, topic like friction. This is something we have done in 11th class. Okay, why don't I do it like I did in 11th class? So I went back. I took out whatever, sources that I had in 11th class, like NCRTs or whatever, whichever that you might have done. I leave that to you. I went back there and I saw all the concepts that how they have been taught to me in 11th class. Then I came back and then I saw, okay, this is exactly the same thing that is happening in Krishna series in UPSC also, but it's making them sound like something very complex, which, need not be, which is not as complex as it sounds. So whenever you do any physics topics, don't, be of the opinion that this is something of this is in fact not even bachelor's level. This is 11th, 12th class level physics only. Something that you have done before. If you have not done in very detailed manner, then this is the time to do in the detailed manner. That's the only difference. Okay. So whenever doing any physics topic, do it like a 11th, 12th class student. That is the only biggest, you know, that is the biggest step which has simplified my entire physics preparation. Okay. Second, feel free to use basic resources like NCRTs. Go and on YouTube and search IIT JEE mechanics problems examples, or JEE mains mechanics examples. So things like that you do, because the concept, fundamentally, the laws of physics don't change whether you're in your 11th class or whether in your UPSC preparation. It's the same thing that is being applied, right? The equations will always be the same. Okay. Then another important thing, number 3, doing easy problems multiple times, many times, 10 times, 15 times is more important than doing your difficult questions. Because if you see the how previous year's questions are, suppose in the last 10 years, take any particular topic, like take say friction, like, so in the last 10 years you will see there will be 5 or 6 questions. Okay. And 3 to 4 of the questions will be either repeated or very similar in nature. They'll be very easy in nature. Okay. So I would suggest you do those questions only multiple times instead of doing focusing on the other 2 questions. And about 4 of those 6 questions will be very easy, and the 5th one will be difficult, and the 6th one will be something that nobody will be able to do, ever be able to do in this examination. Okay. So I leave the 6th one. 5th one is difficult, which I will leave for later, but the first 4 I will do as many times as I can. Okay. So that is a strategy that I followed for physics. So don't go looking after very difficult questions. Do easy questions, and easy how you will identify, use your previous year's questions. Then you'll know, okay, this is the concept that is being asked multiple times in 2013, then 15, then 16, then 19. Okay, then I'll do this. So that's how you shortlist. Okay. Then that is why previous year's questions are of utmost importance. And finally, okay, so this is something that I will pen है क्या बोर्ड पे लिखने के लिए इसी पे लिख सकता हूँ हाँ okay. So yeah, this section I am talking about paper 1. Okay. So I hope you have seen the pattern of the paper. Okay. So this is one linear algebra, then sorry, this is questions. Okay. So which one are the compulsory questions? First and 5. Okay, let's say we have to attempt, nothing we can do in this case. Okay. Then what we have to do? From the section 1, how many how many do we have to attempt? At least 1, right? So let's say I've attempted the second one. Okay. And here also at least 1. Let's say, okay, now let's just leave it here. Now, if you look at statics and dynamics, so this is the section where you'll get questions from OD, statics and dynamics, and then vector analysis, right? Okay. So I am assuming these are simpler concepts compared to statics and dynamics. And statics and dynamics again has 2 parts, statics and dynamics, right? So now, what if, so the first thing I want to mention here is that I didn't see the need to do everything from end to end of every particular topic. So this is where one example where you can choose to leave some things in the sense that not to leave completely, but to take that amount of risk which minimizes your whatever loss. Okay. So now I have done 3. So in this case, we have seen linear algebra, calculus, and 3-dimensional geometry. Okay. Now, from statics and dynamics, if you see the previous year's question, there will be a statics question here, or static or dynamic question here, or dynamic or static, or static or dynamic. But in the same question, you will not have statics and dynamics. Very rarely you will have. Okay. So what if I do all these 3 very good, nicely? Okay. And from these ordinary differential equations and vector analysis is also there, it will come up. I did vector ODE nicely, vector analysis nicely. What if I leave one of it? If I'm comfortable with statistics and find dynamics difficult, I leave that. And if this statics question is something that comes in 6, I will attempt this, and then I will attempt this one. Okay. So even if I left one thing, if I even suppose if I did dynamics, and the question which is asking about dynamics, I'll do that. I'll leave the rest 2 questions, but I'll choose 3 from here. Okay. So you understand what I'm saying, right? So those are the areas where you can actually choose. So this is one area where you can choose. Okay. So first do the thing which is the most easiest for you, is the most simplest, which of course is statics. Okay. So this is one part. Next, exit. Okay. So I hope you understand this. If you have any questions, you can ask now. How to choose and all. No, let's move on then. Okay. Next comes the vector analysis. It's again very one of the easiest topics. IMS notes are more than sufficient. Okay. And it's a very easy topic, but the difficulty comes when again this has a lot of geometry involved in it. So a lot of three-dimensional things are happening, and that's when your visualization is must. So a lot of planes cut a lot of figures in this case too. There will be a lot of contours, open contours, closed contours. A lot of terms will come. If you have not encountered them, then just be aware that okay, a lot of three-dimensional imagination is required. Just be sure that okay, this thing is happening. And a couple of other areas where you need focus is that first you will have a lot of use with polar coordinates. So we are not used to, we are only used to x, y, and z. Now r theta z or r theta phi. Okay, so those things you will need here. So make yourself familiar with what the physical meaning of r theta and phi are. X, y, z, you know, three straight lines in three uh, orthogonal directions, but it's not the same with r theta and z or r theta and phi. Okay, so why we are using r theta and z, why are we using r theta and phi? Something that, you know, ask yourself that question. Go to some YouTube video, check the significance of it, geometric significance of it, come back, you will see that you will already understand a lot of things that you have not understood before. Okay, polar coordinates, then Gauss Stokes theorems. Sometimes the question is asked about Stokes theorem, but you'll have to use Gauss theorem and then come to Stokes theorem. So there are many questions like that, but that clarity will come when you can imagine a lot of things in three-dimensional space. Okay, again, if you want to imagine things in that space, go to your graphing calculator and use the internet. Okay, so and there will be a lot of confusion with clockwise, anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise is positive, clockwise is negative. You'll get the answer, but you'll get the answer is given as 212 pi, but your answer will turn out to be minus 212 pi. Why? Because you have not understood clockwise and anti-clockwise perfectly. That's all. But just have that clarity, right? This part will be easily, can easily be done. Okay. So we are done with paper one. Okay. Any questions in paper one? No? Okay. Let's start with paper two. A little difficult, on the difficult side compared to paper one. Okay. Difficult in the sense that it has a little more syllabus to cover and a little obscure abstract things also come here. Okay, the most biggest villain of them all is algebra, modern algebra, right? So here I think, you know, villain because most difficult yet the topic with the least weightage. So why are we doing that? Because we have to. There's no other way. So for some people who have done their BSc in mathematics, they'll find this easy. So it's very good for them. But physics will take care of them. So it will even everybody out. So again, but anyway, so it's again, it needs rationalization. So this is also a topic where I did some parts and I left some parts. Okay, so I'll tell you which ones. Now, okay, so here you have IMS notes, which is very good in the conceptual and also has some questions, but I think we'll need to go a step further. Okay, and I used to refer to the book called Galleon, and it has a lot of good questions. The topic is explained in very 1 or 2 pages, and a lot of questions, almost hundreds of questions, 50 to 100 questions are given per topic. So if you just go through those questions, you'll see that a lot of PYQs are just directly taken from there, or just numbers are changed. Okay, so Galleon is a very good resource, and because I could not attend coaching, I took this course by Chennai Mathematical Institute by NPTEL. Okay, I think the professor, name of the professor is Krishna Hanumantu. Okay, and he has taught well. I only did groups from there, but it was really useful. So now, what I mean by rationalization here is that again what I did in statics and dynamics. Okay, here there are two parts, that is groups, there is rings. Okay, so groups is easy, and groups is the part where a lot of PYQs are asked from. Rings, on the other hand, rings is hard. A lot of questions are not asked. Okay, so again what happens here is that again. Yeah. Okay. So again, come to paper 2, section A, section B. Okay, you have to do 1 and 5 same. Okay. Then, okay. So 2, 3, and 4. Algebra can come in any of these or all of these. Okay. But you will not find the same question from groups and rings in the same part. Okay. So I have to look for those question which has groups only. Okay, because I wanted to do groups, I wanted to leave rings. So suppose this has rings and this has rings. I used to not do this. I used to do this. Okay, I'm done with section A. But the risk is that you have to do 3 from here. That means you have to do better here. Okay, you can either again leave something from here and do all from 3 from here and 2 from here, or you can leave rings here, do only 2 questions here, then do 3 here. It's your choice. If you are a somebody who has done algebra before, then you do 3 from here, and if you're finding difficulty with physics, just do 2 from here, because you'll have physics concepts like mechanics and fluid mechanics. Okay, so this is again a rationalization exercise that you have to do. It's all your own customization based on how much you're comfortable with what subject. Okay, so I just focused on groups. Then in rings, I did not completely leave it. Rings has out of 10 topics, I just did 3 out of 10 topics. Those 3 how I identified is because I looked at the PYQs. Okay, some PYQs are being repeated, and those are the PYQs that are easy also. So why should I leave that? So I just did those, and whatever difficult ones were there, I left them. Okay, so that was about algebra. The key to doing good in algebra is to solve a lot of questions. That's the only way. Okay, and algebra is different from every other topic. Is that because you can't? It's abstract in nature. You can't say okay plus minus, okay plus 1 minus 1 equal to 0. No, you still have to explain why that is happening. Okay, so if suppose we are talking about a group has 4 properties. Okay, and everything from that group, whether it's cancellation property, whether it's transitive property, it's just coming from 4 areas, those 4 particular properties. If you talk about subgroups, then it has one another property. So it's just those 4 or 5 simple objects, simple properties, from which we are deriving a lot of other things. Then if you go to normal subgroups, then one more property will be added. Then it will get more features, right? It's like, if you have red and green, you can mix it to get some color. But if you have red, green, and blue, then you can mix a lot, you get a lot of colors. But everything is coming from this part only, right? So you have to be absolutely, smart in how you apply those fundamental principles only to get a lot of things. And from very small things, you go and derive a lot of, bigger properties. Okay, but you'll know this once you practice, and this is explained in a very well manner in Gallian. Okay, so you do Gallian, there are very good questions, and he solves a lot of things right from very basic principles. And that particular practice to get a lot of information from nothing is what will make you do good in algebra. Okay, now moving on to real analysis. Again, a very difficult topic. So many difficult topics in the section A as well. Section A itself. Again, to be read with calculus, don't forget, because it's not that a syllabus is overlapping. It's also that a lot of questions. So, real analysis, the topics given under real analysis and calculus are different. Only 1 or 2 topics are matching. Rest of the topics, 15, 16 subtopics are there. They're different. But still, a question from calculus will be asked in paper 2. Okay, and some question from real analysis will be asked in paper 1 section A. Okay, so in that manner also this is important. Okay, and then do questions from Malik and Aurora. And here the second biggest difficulty is that you have to note down a lot of important theorems. So a lot of proofs are being asked nowadays, because doing questions again application might be getting a little repetitive. So I think to differentiate between a lot of people who understand on and people who know, you know, UPSC is trying to bring out a lot of new things like theorems. Is asking you proof directly of certain theorems which you actually use. So suppose you are talking about convergence, you're talking about convergence, you're talking about Leibniz test. They directly ask the proof of Leibniz test one day. Okay, and people who have just learned, okay, Leibniz test is this, but haven't looked at proof, have lost 15 to 20 marks. Okay, so important theorems. There are few theorems. I think in all total there will be hardly 10 theorems, but you will so note them down. Go to Malik and Arora, look out all the theorems, statements, and note down all the proofs. Note down the proofs in such a way that you understand. And you know what happens in maths is that mathematicians is that they will try to present you the proofs in the most difficult complex manner. First they will say, okay, let's take epsilon to be 1 upon square root of 64 delta. But where is that coming from? If you go and see at the bottom of the page, then you will have, okay, this is where it is coming from. What you do, you take that first and then you start. Okay, you don't have to be a mathematician, you just have to, you know, do mathematics optional, right? So difficult, there are proofs, there will be hardly 10-12 proofs, 10-12 theorems. Note down all the theorems and write down proofs in the way that you understand. Okay, then and the theorems are also something it's not something that you are being asked in choice. They are being asked in 10 markers also. Question number 1 they asked in the last year. So what will you do then? Just lose 10 marks? No, you prepare. Okay, and yeah, and when you write theorems, first you do it in your own language, but there is a certain mathematical language that you have to follow. Don't just write, okay, this is what I will take now, this, then I will do that, then I will do this. No, right? There are some particular symbols to be used. If it's delta, use delta only. If it's epsilon, use epsilon only. It doesn't matter, it's just a name, it's just a symbol, but that is what is used in a mathematical, you know, mathematical literature, right? So use those only. And finally, one thing where you can score is that, you know, in real analysis, I don't know how many of you have done it, but in questions like series convergence or sequence convergence, you will use a lot of tests like Cauchy's convergence, or you'll use Cauchy's convergence test, or Abel's test, or Leibniz test. Okay, you just, you know, when you write, okay, so you will have one page to solve it. Okay, and you write, okay, using Abel's test, this will happen, and the solution will come in 3-4 lines. The rest of the page is still empty. Okay, but then what you can do, you write, okay, I have used Abel's test, and the statements of Abel's test is that, okay, for every term that is positive, for every n greater than 0, if a and bn is positive, and so on. There is a very big long statement, 3-line statement, but do write the statement also. Otherwise, everybody is doing that. Everybody knows how to apply the formula. Everybody knows how to get that. Even sometimes it happens that you don't even have to look at the formula. A 15-marker question in real analysis can have 3 to 4 mark solution for 4-line solution. Then what is the point of having 2 pages? So write something, write the statement itself that you are using this test, and this test says that such terms are there. If such terms are there, then I will use these particular terms in this manner to get this particular ratio, and if that ratio is less than 1, convergence happens. If it's greater than 1, it doesn't. Okay, write that. Okay, I think you're expected to do that much, right? Okay, just a second. You know, again, complex analysis. Okay, again, IMS notes are more than enough for this. I did not need any other resource per se. So this is easier topic again, but I have put in yellow because of this one particular fact that there is a topic called contour integration, and there is another topic called pole or singularities, right? It's very easy, but many people get confused. If I ask you it's a pole or not, or is it an essential singularity or not, a lot of people get confused. The definition says very clearly, and if you look at that very particular definition, you can very easily say that even if without solving, but a lot of people get confused with it. So be careful with pole, the concept of pole or concept of singularity. And then contour integration. Contour integration has, you know, there are many caveats. For certain figures, you have to choose contour in such a way. Sometimes you have to choose a circle. Sometimes you have to choose weird shapes. You know, sometimes it's a circle. right? Sometimes it's something like this. Okay, sometimes it's just a, these are the contours. I hope you have done it, or otherwise you will do it soon. There are many. Sometimes the contour is like this. Okay, you will later understand why am I drawing these weird shapes. Sometimes the contour is square or then rectangle. Okay, so you don't have to remember the shapes per se, but first you locate what the points are. Okay, then once you locate the points, then it will be really not very difficult to understand, okay, what kind of shape I should choose. Okay, the shape doesn't matter per se, but you choose circle, you choose a triangle, you choose a rectangle, because it will simplify your calculations. Okay, so definitely contour integration questions will come, one or two will come. And the moment you come, so what I used to do is, I did so much practice in this particular part, is that, okay, the moment any contour integration comes, I will go do that under 5 minutes. Every step I had remembered. Okay, so it's that so expected. The favorite part of UPSC in complex analysis, that contour integration will come, right? Okay, then there is some integral inequalities that you have to mention. Many people skip it. I think it's called Jordan's lemma or something. Sometimes some integrals will go to 0, but you have to explain why that is happening. Okay, why I'm saying this, that is that because in books what happens is that first question they will solve explaining every step, but the second, third question they will not do all the steps, they'll skip the steps. So when you're practicing, suppose you're starting from the third question, you will see that there are no steps, you will write the same steps in the exam. But in the first question, the very first model question, they solve each and every step, they show each and every step, they have a logical conclusion from step 1 to step 2. You can't just skip steps. So make sure that you mention all the things that you're using, whatever inequalities, whatever formulas, whatever. Okay. And finally, we have linear programming. Again, IMS notes are very, more than enough. Okay. But here, again, I put yellow. Why I'm calling it easy? Again, why am I putting yellow is because there will be a lot of calculation mistakes going on. Too many tables. Okay, too much cumbersome. But to do better, first use calculator. I have used calculator. There will be a lot of fractions. 5 by 7 minus 3 by 13. How will you do it quickly? So there you have to do 7 to 8 such subtractions per step. Then 7 to 8 again the next step. Again in the next step. So make sure you use calculator. It's not very difficult. Okay, and make a note of all the exceptional cases, because exceptions are UPSC's favorite. They're asking a lot of exceptions cases, like when there is no solution, what kind of situation happens at the leaving variable or the entering variable in the simplex method. What kind of situation arises when there are multiple solutions? What kind of situation exists when there are infinite solutions? And sometimes there will be a situation where there will be variables competing. Which variable? Two variables will say, I have to leave first, I have to leave first. What will you do then? How will you choose which variable to take out and which variable to keep? Okay, there are certain rules that you have to follow. Just make sure you note them down. Okay, straightforward linear programming problems, I stopped seeing them in the last 2-3 years. There will be one or two, but the big questions, 15-20 marker questions, will have one or more of these exceptions. Okay, so make sure you focus on this. And there is another method called two-phase method. Generally people ignore it. Last time it came, I think for 10 marks it came. And if you haven't done it, you haven't done it, you lose marks, right? So don't leave anything. These are very small concepts. Just because they were not asked in the previous year's questions, don't leave them. Okay, done with section A, set A of paper 2. Now last set, partial differential equations. Again, same as OD. Do your take your concept from IMS notes, and finally do the questions from MD Raisingania. Okay, again, prone to silly mistakes, right? But do practice. The difference of the specialty of PD compared to all other chapters is that some of the PD solutions can be 3 to 4 pages long, especially series solution. I showed you initially there was a equation called a differential equation, very small equation, 2 terms, but the solution to that equation can be 3 to 4 pages. Okay, so very long solutions. If you go wrong at one step, I went wrong in one step in the examination, and I think I lost out marks to that in this particular exam. I did the 3 pages very nicely. Last fourth page, just 1 or 2 steps in the end, I think I made a mistake. So I think it had costed me, right? So make sure you practice enough, right? And yeah, so will you use a lot of steps, 3 pages, so many steps will come, and so many places you will be referring to. Okay, from equation 1, there will be, say, almost you will get some 15 equations, right? So at the end, you'll have to say, okay, the final solution is obtained by equation 3, 4, and 7, and 10. We get this part. So if you don't number your equations, if you don't write your steps correctly, then also you can, miss a lot of clarity in this particular exam. It's better for you because you will get a clear solution at the end, and it is also better for the examination because he knows that you are getting a right, you are going in the right direction from the very start until the very end. Okay. And numerical analysis and computer programming, IMS notes I have used, and Adil Prakash's notes I have considered for computer programming section, right? So no need to do, so I think a lot of text based concepts are given in computer programming. So a lot of uh, content is available for conjunctive normal forms, disjunctive normal forms, truth statements, truth tables, binary, hexagonal, octagonal systems. Just refer to Atul Prakash's notes once for that, right? And I don't think you'll have to look at anything else. Okay. Other books I've found to be too bulky. He has just summarized it, and that summary itself is notes. No need to do anything else. Okay. Now, in the numerical analysis part, note down your notes in such a way. I'll share my notes also. Note down your notes in such a way. First, proof of convergence. Suppose you're talking about bisection method or Newton-Raphson method or regular falsy or secant method. First, note down in such a way. First, put the heading Newton-Raphson method. Then take the proof of convergence. Then you also put geometric interpretation. Sometimes they'll ask you directly to prove how Newton-Raphson method is converging, right? Then you prove, then also show its geometrical interpretation, okay? And finally, calculator tricks for root finding algorithm. So I used to follow this particular approach. Okay, for every root finding algorithm, let's say, okay, so let's say Newton-Raphson method. First, I used to note down what the method is. Then I wrote the proof of convergence. Then I used to show the geometric interpretation. Then flowchart, because there is a section on flowcharts also in that particular topic. Sometimes they'll ask you, okay, don't prove it, but tell me the algorithm, so method or algorithm. Tell me the algorithm, not by steps, but by use of flowchart. Okay. So then flowchart also I used to note down. And finally, I used to solve one question. Before that, I used to note down the calculator trick, or calculate what are the steps that I have to, what are the buttons that I have to press on a calculator, right? And finally, I used to solve one question. Then PYQs. Looks like too much, but this will all end in 2 pages, 2 to 3 pages. And that is the only thing you require to do from that particular topic. Okay. So Newton-Raphson method, secant method, regular falsy method, bisection method. Yes. So you will be able to, you have to solve these things. No? Okay. So he's asking what is the use of calculator here?
No, sir told us to insert some program like where you have to just put the some values and directly get answers.
So that's what I'm telling you. So you go to the option called function, and then you'll have to write an algorithm only. But the calculator, so it's like how you write. Suppose if I ask you to write a code in MATLAB, you will write in different way in Excel, then you'll write in a different way in C or C++. Same thing in calculator also, you have to write in a different manner. So for this particular algorithm, what the method is that xn plus 1 is equal to xn minus f by f dash, right? So how do you put this in a calculator is the key. So you can't put x. For this, you have to use letters like A, capital A in the calculator, right? Then then you have to put some, you have to write the whole equation, that too in the feature called functions. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, that you have to note down how you need to put this part under each convergence, under each root finding algorithm. And this is not just for root finding algorithm, this is also for quadrature formula, that is how you integrate numerically. This is also these are also, this is also something that you need to note down for solving ordinary differential equations numerically, solving partial differential equations numerically. All of this is in your syllabus. So if you just know that, okay, this is what I have to do for Newton-Raphson's method, just have to put in the initial value, final value, whatever the function value is there. Okay, and then you can just keep doing the same thing. You don't even have to practice in this case. Just, once you do this, it's just putting in values in the calculator, right? So that's why this is important. And again, derivation of interpolation formulae, all these interpolation, Newton's forward interpolation, backward interpolation, these formulas proof will be directly asked. Last year, he asked, what is the convergence of Newton's backward interpolation? How do you derive the formula? Nothing. No, there's nothing to solve. Just write the steps. So write the steps in your own language. I mean, in the way that you understand in your notes. Don't take it from the book itself. Write it in your own language. That will be easier to remember. And like there are many different algorithms. Newton's forward, Newton's backward method. Different interpretations of the same thing. So here you start from the first term. Here you start from the last term. So I used to write them on the same side, two sides of the same page, front and back. Okay, because there are a lot of similarities. Okay, here I have to start from the first term. There I have to start from the last term. Okay, so whenever something similar, again, quadrature formulae are there. There will be 2 to 3 different quadrature formulae by 2 to 3 different names. Simpson's 1/3 rule, Simpson's 3/8 rule, Simpson's 1/2 rule, I think. Trapezoidal rule, trapezoidal 1/2 rule, right? So all those are actually coming from the same, same particular process, that is Newton's forward interpolation, right? So what is the n? If you put n equal to 1, you'll get trapezoidal rule. If you put n equal to 3, you'll get Simpson's 3/8 rule. Okay, so have those linkages in your notes. These will not be very clear in the textbooks or other notes that you're reading from, right? And finally, for computer programming, you need to use a lot of calculator, right? I just only discovered 2 days before my mains exam. Okay, so the questions will be asked like this. Okay, convert a B6, 7 from base 16 to base 8, right? So now you'll have to do, okay, do solve this question later manually. Let's see if you can do it. But otherwise you can, once you do it, you will have a feature to convert from different bases, one base to other base in the calculator. Just put in A, B, 6, 7, and then you'll get the answer, right? So I made one such mistake in my exam, but then when I was coming back to recheck and I put it in the calculator, it was wrong. And then I checked, my calculation was obviously wrong. So that's how I used. So I think that was asked for 5 or 10 marks. So I saved 10 marks like that. Okay. So calculator use extensively, and make a list of all the tricks that you use using calculator. Okay. And now I'm telling you in the early stage, because if you start using them now, then there is nothing you can do later. You need to do later, because you just go back to your notes maybe 4 months later. If you're doing computer programming again, just look at the trick and then you're done. Just know the calculator steps. That's all. And finally, we are almost there. Mechanics and fluid dynamics. Okay. IMS notes or MD Raisingania plus MD Raisingania is for fluid mechanics. This time I didn't use the notes. I did everything from MD Raisingania, because the previous year's questions, 9 or 10, 9.5 out of 10 questions are taken from MD Raisingania in the particular book. Okay. And Krishna series are used for mechanics. Okay. So before going there, what I would like to ask is, does anyone know the difference between dynamics and mechanics? Anybody? Nobody has done this part? Okay. So dynamics and mechanics, they are nothing but so both of them talk about application of forces, how bodies are moving under forces. In dynamics, we just use pointless massless objects, point objects. But in mechanics, what happens is that now you start considering what the shape is. Suppose a ball is rolling, it's in a spherical spherical shape. But if you try to roll a triangle, if you try to roll a rectangle, it's very difficult to roll it. So the shape consideration with respect to shape become important in mechanics. But there ends the difference itself. The basic laws of forces, the basic laws of conservation of momentum, basic laws of conservation of angular momentum. Three things are there: laws of conservation of momentum, law of conservation of angular momentum, and law of conservation of energy. These three particular fundamental concepts apply in the same exact manner in both dynamics and mechanics. It's just that in mechanics, the shape part comes into picture. So that's why you get things like moment of inertia, and you have to calculate, if the shape is different, then the result will be different. That's all. But the laws of physics that you apply will be the same. So whenever you're doing mechanics and dynamics, you make sure that you do together, try to do them together, because there is absolutely no difference whatsoever happening in between these two topics. And it has also happened that some question in mechanics has been asked in dynamics, or the other way around. Okay, because fundamentally the laws apply in the same manner, right? Okay, so okay, then do problems very selectively. What I told earlier also, do easy problems, do problems that are coming in the previous years, and do easy questions only. And finally, do not ignore topics like D'Alembert's. Again, what I told you about asymptotes, curve tracing in calculus, D'Alembert's principle is something that people ignore. Okay, so this is one, small challenge is for somebody to explain to me what D'Alembert's principle is. It's not given in any of these books. Okay, but last year for a 10 marks compulsory question, it came, and I don't think anybody could explain it in the way that it actually is. So D'Alembert's principle, please do not ignore. There might be other such topics because there have been no previous year's questions. People might ignore. So I'm emphasizing on this fact again and again that please do not ignore. Just at least know the basic definition and solve one or two easy problems. That's all is required. And the last year, if you had done that much, I did not do it, which was in 2021 first attempt. I did not do it, so I have to just leave the 10 marker question. Okay, so that's all. That's regarding the sources. And so these were all my sources. I clubbed all the sources, and I again have some examples, like for example integral calculus from real analysis, all the particular theorems and special cases I've summarized in one way. Then sequences, there are many tests. All tests I've summarized in one page. Then Lagrange's method in calculus. So many cases. This is less than 0, that is equal to 0. What happens? Just make one flowchart. There you have it. That's all. And finally, stability of equilibrium. Again, so many cases. This particular flowchart will be written in four or five different pages in 20 different paragraphs. But you put it at one place in your own language. So I just wrote this is stable, this is unstable. That's all. These are the cases. So I just highlighted those parts where which I have to remember very clearly. So my job is done. So you can follow. So if you think this is what works for you, then please follow. Okay. So that was about note taking, and note taking again, emphasizing again and again, most important part, don't ignore. And so I remember this one particular senior that had told me, okay, you do your Sanketh, mathematics optional should not be considered finished until you do 4 to 5 revisions before your mains, right? And I wondered, how can I do 4 or 5 revisions if one particular reading itself is taking 6-7 months, right? So what I did in those 6 to 8 months or 10 months, whatever time I did my first reading in, I made the notes also. Then my first revision again took me 3 months. Then it became, eventually by the time I did my 4th or 5th revision, I could revise the entire thing in 2 hours. One paper in 2 hours, second paper in 2 hours, over. Okay. So that's how you have to compress. तो zip compressor होता है ना, zip file को zip files में बनाता है कंप्यूटर में, वैसे बना दो. ठीक है. Now coming to the second most important part, that is testing. Okay, again, first is time management. Okay, time is very important. Again, I take this example always. Ki if the 3 hours question paper, if you give 4 hours or 3.5 hours, you will everybody of you will get 400 marks. But that is the trick, now you have to do, that is the boundary condition that you have to do in 3 hours. So time is very important. So I was a little brutal. What I used to do is, I used to start with the fact that I have to finish one particular question in 30 minutes. So 5 questions, 5 into 30, 2.5 hours, right? So that leaves me with half an hour, which I will use to check the questions whether I have written them correctly or not. But honestly speaking, I could not finish in 2.5 hours. It used to take me 2 hours, 40 minutes or 45 minutes. And at least it used to leave me with 10 to 15 marks to check all the answers that I have already written. And this fact has actually helped me in both the attempts as well. In the last attempt, I was telling you that computer programming problem, small problem, conversion of binary from binary to decimal or whichever question that was. I calculated it wrongly. Then I checked with calculator. It was wrong. My solution was wrong. So I corrected it then and there. Okay. So if you do your mocks, you will know. Okay, let me start with 30 minutes per second, 30 minutes per question. Let's see how much time I can do it. Right? At least have 10 to 15 minutes in the end to check all the solutions that you have. Okay. Then it's also important to choose which questions I was talking to you about. In the section 1, whether I have to choose 2, in section 2, then I have to choose 3, or 3 versus 3, 2 and 3, or 3 and 2. But unfortunately, sometimes what happens is that you can't choose anything because you don't know anything. You know 2 from the first section and you know 2 from the second section. Then what you do, in the third question, you choose it in such a way that at least you save a lot of marks, right? So this part I actually made a mistake this year, which cost me 20 marks. I will tell you at the very end what happened. So at least 2 versus 2. Two questions you will have answer. And the last fifth question, choose it in such a way that it minimizes your risk, right? And finally, can do selective study, which is, again, I was telling you that, statics and dynamics. Do statics first, okay? And in real analysis, algebra, I left out rings. You can leave out something else which you think that it is of the least weightage and also the most difficult for you, okay? So that will help you. That kind of, if you solve your mocks, you solve your PYQs, you will know which parts to, not emphasize that much on. You can expect to solve in set time. So again, if you do your if you do take your tests, then you will know, okay, these kind of questions I have to, these come for 10 marks. So I will have to, so 10 marker questions, 5 such questions come in paper, question number 1 and question number 5. Okay. So if I said 30 minutes per question and 5 such question, so that leaves me with how many? 6 minutes per question for 10 marks. Okay. So if I'm getting a 10 marker question in my test, then I have to make sure that I'll have to do it within 6 minutes. Okay. And that's how you will do the entire question in 30 minutes. Okay. So in some questions, you might do in questions like linear algebra, you can solve the entire question in 2 minutes only. Then you will save 4 minutes there. So you can use the 4 minutes later to spend the same time in a larger question, which has a larger solution. Same with 15, 20 markers. Here you will get, I think, 10 or 12 minutes. Okay. Then comes space management. Okay. Sometimes in you CSE, suppose you have a 10 marker question, okay, which is the very first question. The question will be, question will have, 2-page solution, which you might have done in your notes, but there will be only one side given to solve that particular question. So what you do, you make a line in between, you write half the solution on one side and half the solution on the other. Okay. Sometimes these cases can happen. Sometimes the reverse can also happen. In questions like linear programming problem, 4 pages will be given, but your solution will end in 2 pages. Right? What to do in such cases? Nothing. If your solution is ending in 2 pages, end your solution in 2 pages, strike the other 2 pages. That's all. So what is the constant in these particular cases is that the space required, that you think, okay, this is what is required, that should be the main idea on which you have to attempt your question papers, not on the basis of how much space is provided. Okay. Sometimes it can be very less, sometimes it can be very much. And this you will know if you solve tests, right? Because when you look at the previous year's question, you will only get the questions, but only someone who has been in the mains examination or has attempted mock tests knows how much space is being given. Okay, what if you haven't practiced any mock test and suddenly you go and say ki अरे ये तो 3 page का solution है, I don't have, they have only provided 1 page to me, what should I do? You will have to fit 3 page solution in 1 page. That's all, right? Okay. So yeah, this is okay. Marks maximization. And finally, so again, when I used to attempt test, I used to see how much correct attempt I used to have in every particular mock test, so that ultimately even if you score 200 out of 250 in one paper, you will not get 200, because everybody knows there is some kind of reduction of marks that is happening, which we call scaling, right? So if I want to score 300 plus, so 300 divided by 0.7, on average, which will be 440 or 430 and above, should be my correct attempt. Okay. So I used to track all the correct attempted marks. People, if you give your mock test for submission, they will cut some marks for no reason. I didn't care about that. I used to just care, okay, if I did this right, I will get 10 out of 10 marks. And then in the end, I used to multiply with 0.7 or 0.65, whichever it is. So, okay. So then I used to get, okay, this is my real score that I'm getting, that I'm, at that particular level before I go to the actual examination. And finally, marks, when you test, you'll also focus your weak points and silly mistakes. So I will talk about this also. So whichever topics I used to not get good marks at, I used to go revise them multiple times before I moved on to the next test. Okay, that's how also testing helps in time management, space management, and maximize your marks, of course, in the very end. And finally, some tips. Okay, solution writing. One good thing that I did from my first attempt and second attempt is that I wrote my solutions very clearly, just like I used to write in my board examinations. Okay, so in your notes, you might be doing a lot of steps, you might be skipping a lot of steps, right? I don't think you should do that here, because if there is a 2 page space, that is blank space, that is given to write a solution, then there might be some, there might be some expectation from you, so that you come to the solution not just from, skipping steps, but come to that solution in a logical manner. So that logic happens when you go from step 1 to step 2 in a very defined fashion, and by that happens when you don't skip steps. Okay, so equation steps you write, then equation numbering is very important, especially in very long solutions, right? Then highlight the solution, and at the very end, when you are done with the whatever proof, you just highlight, put in a box. I used to put it in a box so that your examiner knows, okay, this is the solution. Okay, then formulae, you describe the formulae that are being used, and finally test statements. I was talking to you about Leibniz test, Abel's test. Don't just write that I use this test, right? Describe the entire test also, along with the application of the test. Write the whole statement of the test also, right? Second, then sometimes you need to do a lot of geometrical interpretation in vector analysis, 3D geometry, and in partial differential equations also. In fluid mechanics also, there's a lot of geometry that is involved, and in fact in real analysis also. So whenever there is a chance, I used to just make a sketch, whether it's 2D or 3D. So one such example is that this real analysis theorem was there, which is a fairly difficult looking theorem, but if you just make that particular diagram, it's not very difficult to understand. So maybe it will get you extra brownie points. I don't know. If it will, then why not? Okay, so do that. And use of calculator, again, these are all, I will not say more about this, but these are all the cases where you can use your calculator. In fact, there might be more cases also. You explore. I explored at the last minute, and I found out in the last minute, meaning last 1 week or 2 weeks before the examination, and so many use cases I found. I was just going through the calculator. Okay, what are all the features that it has, right? So these are some of the uses that I found, and it will definitely greatly improve the speed at which you make your solution. So if UPSC is giving you the opportunity to use a calculator, why just use it in places where it requires calculator? Why not use it in places which will simplify your process also? Okay, so do it, explore all these things. Just, you know, if you want to understand, okay, what is this complex algebra, just Google complex algebra calculator steps. It will just tell you how to use. And finally, I think we are at the end. Then I made this one very big correction towards my second mains, that I used to create a book of mistakes. We all do a lot of silly mistakes, and that's fine. But what is not fine is that we are not working on them. Okay. So if you have to, you know, the success in mathematics optional paper happens. See, paper 1 is relatively easier than paper 2. Okay, paper 1 involves a lot of calculations, right? And calculations can lead to a lot of silly mistakes. Everybody will be able to do questions from paper 1. There will be almost no difference. Only there will be only difference in 10-15 marks between you and every other person. That's all. But if you want to save those 10 marks, you have to be absolutely clear in all the calculations that you do in paper 1. Okay, then if you are through to paper 1, then go to paper 2. Paper 2, there will be a combination. One is a little calculative part, which will be very small, make no mistake there. And then will be one component to paper 2, which will be the difficult part, which will be physics, large solutions in physics, large solutions in real analysis, large solutions in modern algebra, right? So the key, so if you're doing all the calculations correctly in paper 1 and all the calculations in paper 2, then you are almost at the edge of 300. And if you solve those difficult questions in paper 2, then you're already above 300 plus. Okay, so this is how the nature of the examination is. Okay, if you are losing out in the calculations itself, then you're already out of the race. Okay, calculations necessary to get 300, but not sufficient. Okay, but if you're failing there, then you're out of the game. Okay, so I made a short chapter wise list of mistakes that I used to do, and before every exam I used to refer, and once I referred to them, I did not make those mistakes again. Okay, then coming to list of theorems and proofs, I told you about this before also. Create a chapter wise list. There are only 3 to 4 chapters like real analysis, modern algebra. I used to almost I still remember some of the proofs itself. So because I wrote them, I used to do revision multiple times. So you also, I suggest you also do create chapter wise the list of theorems, 10, 12 theorems, not more than that. That's all. Then and these days, previously there used to be questions from real analysis, modern algebra, but now theorems are being asked from physics part also. So now go back, go to your Krishna series, go to your IMS notes, take out the list of theorems or proofs that you have in physics also. Note down in a simple language that you understand, then keep it revises multiple times. And I don't think that you will have to face any new problem ahead. And finally, feel free to refer to extracurricular sources. So like I was saying, some of you might be from BSc mathematics. You have done your modern algebra there. If you're finding IMS notes to be difficult, or you're finding some Galleon textbook to be difficult, go do that. Why not? So do whatever, YouTube or whatever videos you're coaching, whichever. If you have taken some kind of classes from any other online course, refer to that, because fundamentally mathematics is mathematics. Whoever does it, in whichever way they do it, it's mathematics itself. It's just that UPSC is asking you to do only certain components. Okay, so refer to your old notes, refer to your old graduation notes, 11th class, 12th class notes, whichever notes that you have done. Okay, feel free, but make sure, like I said ahead, make sure that keep everything related to civil service examination, discard everything that is not there in the civil service examination. Okay, and I think we're done. So that was about note taking, that was about sources, that was about how to attempt tests, that was about the importance of tests, and that was about all the things that you can do. And finally, what I would like to add here is that out of all these things, I think what is important is to maintain that calm in the examination. I was just short of 300. Maybe that 5 marks is what I could have gotten, or maybe 5, more than 5. In fact, I left a 20 marker question because I panicked at the last minute in paper 2. I was doing good in paper 1, and paper 2 I got around 147 or 148 marks, which looks good, but it would have been much better, maybe in the range of 160s. But because I panicked in the last minute, I lost those marks and I just got short of 300. So I think that last X factor, where you maintain your calm, is what is required. That is something I couldn't do, but we're letting you aware that this is something that you can do, and that will only happen when you have material to revise and tests that that you keep taking, and keep taking feedback also. Okay. So I think now that's all the best to everyone who's preparing, and let's take some questions, whatever you want to ask. Anyone? It felt like a lecture, didn't it? Huh? Huh? Huh. So he's asking, I wrote Galleon webpage here, this one. So Galleon has a book, and based on each and every chapter of the book, he has created a website which has 10 questions per 10 quiz type questions, yes or no type questions. So he will ask you, suppose you're reading groups. So he'll just ask you in 10 very short quiz like format, whether this is a group or not. What are the properties of a group? So it's like a short mini quiz after each chapter. So I used to go there. And there are some extra examples also. Okay. So it's just like a little more extension of the book that you can use as a research. YouTube. I mostly did NPTEL only. And there was no particular channel per se, but so he's asking what other channels that I use. So it's mostly like, suppose there was a question on topic called asymptotes in calculus. I did not understand it from the book, so I just googled YouTube. I searched YouTube, okay, asymptotes, how to do asymptotes easily or whatever. So I just searched and I just did. There's no particular channel per se. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
At first, hello. At first, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I would like to ask that you said you made crisp notes for maths. How would you relate it to using it for GS?
Okay.
Making
So very similar in how I made GS notes and mathematics notes. I will write it down for you. In
specifically, I want to ask, how did you discard it? These things are not relevant, because while discarding the making things short, I sometimes feel like, am I not leaving the important topic? No.
Yes,
That is
understood.
the big question.
So I used to start whether it's GS or whether it's maths. It will give you one topic. Let's start with the GS. Let's start with the first bullet point. Bullet point was my fundamental idea of creating notes. Okay. Same in mathematics also. Say linear algebra, and first keyword. From GS, I used to take the first keyword, art and culture, whatever it is. Okay. Then I used to write notes related to it from whichever source that you have, whether it's GS or maths. Then I used to check, I used to create 1 or 2 page notes. I used to check whether I'm being able to answer previous year's questions or not. Right? If I'm able to answer, my job is done. I'm not going to look back and make any other notes. Right? If my job is not done, something that is being asked in previous year's question that is not in my notes, I used to add. But again, I used to make sure that it's not 2 to 3 pages, more than 2 to 3 pages. And something comes up from current affairs, I used to write it in a different red colored pen, like I did in maths also. So the procedure is very similar. I had my syllabus in my left hand, my previous year's questions in my right hand. That's all. There's no other thing that I need to rely on. Okay, even when I'm reading newspapers, or even when I'm solving mock tests in the mathematics, or reading newspapers, whatever is relevant based on previous year's questions and syllabus, and that's it. So syllabus will give you a base. You can go as high as possible, right? But previous year's questions will draw a boundary for it. Okay, so this is only the region that you should operate on. Okay, there might be 1 or 2 questions coming from outside, but that is same for everybody. So don't need to worry about that. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Hello.
Can you tell a bit a timeline of yours of preparation, like studying the content,
Huh?
making notes, giving tests,
Hmm.
prelims, and then again revising it for
Okay,
the
it's a
mains?
little haphazard, but I will try to tell you. Let's go way back to the first slide. Huh. So this was my timeline, but I will simplify it for you. 2 years ago, I started my preparation and I gave my prelims in October. Until then, I just was reading. I had no notes to study, and my mains was in January. I had only 3 months. Okay. Then I had a choice. I had only done about 40 to 50% of the syllabus, and I have 2 months. I was not expecting to clear prelims, but 1 month later, I got the result, and I was like, "Acha, I cleared prelims." I didn't even prepare anything for it. So I had 2 months until January mains. Okay, mains was here, and this was prelims. 1 month after prelims, I understood that I'm clearing. So I had just 2 months. So I had two choices: whether I mug up everything and write my mains here. Okay, I just wrote prelims to uh, you know to see how prelims is, but my actual attempt was going to be here, this particular attempt. So what I did, I had two choices: whether I have to mug everything and do good in this mains, which I know even if I do not, even if I do give it everything that I have, I will not be able to do well. And I had the other option: okay, now that I understand the problem, that I have nothing to revise, I have no notes of my own. Let me make my own notes. Let me do whatever I can in this mains. Let me do start note making from here, and let me be at least prepared for the next mains. Okay, so without worrying about this mains, I started creating notes from here. I started notes here. Couple of months I left for prelims preparation, and I finished notes making until here. Okay, then I revised the entire part. Okay, testing also happened simultaneously after prelims. Yes.
Huge congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, my question is, how did you balance GS and maths on an everyday basis?
Yes.
And secondly, like for specific topics of maths, what was your target to complete, let's say, a topic like OTE, which you
Yes.
are doing in class? So, what was your personal target that I have to do it in 15 days, 20 days, or how did you go about that?
Okay. So, okay. Firstly, when I started, all throughout my first attempt, I gave exactly 50% of my time to GS and maths. 4 hours I used to do GS in the morning, and GS 4 hours of maths in the afternoon. I went coaching. I did my coaching for this part. 3 months I went for GS. Maths I did on my by myself, and then I left the coaching also. Okay. So when I was doing coaching for GS, hardly I used to get 1 hour to revise. That's all. Okay, did not do anything extra. So 4 hours, right? Then when until the first attempt, I gave 4 + 4 hours. After this, now comes the attempt number 2. When it's your second attempt, that is when it's your main attempt, the only time you have to study is between prelims and mains, which is 100 days, 100 or 105 days, right? At first I thought I'll do it 50, I will give 50 days to maths and 50 days to GS. But maths is so huge that it actually took me about 65 days to finish and 35 days to do GS. So very less time for GS, but somehow I had to manage. So one thing I bet everything on was test taking, both for GS and mains. So I used to give a lot of tests. Almost in mathematics, I gave around 30 tests. Okay, some were half tests only. 15 were half tests, 15 for full tests. But I used to give test almost every alternate day. I used to get the feedback. Then I used to write every mistake in my mistakes notebook or put some questions in my notes. I used to take feedback. I used to improve and then do the same, repeat the same. Same with GS, same with maths. Okay, but the thing is that until I am studying, until I'm not in the process of examination, I gave 50-50 allocation. After that, because you have to revise a lot in maths, GS I found GS maths to be more time taking. So almost 60-65% of my time was gone to maths. Okay, including tests. Okay, I hope that answers. Yes, topic wise, definitely. Yes. Right. Okay. So whatever topics I have put with green and yellow, which are relatively easier topics, I took around, I think, 15 days per topic, but which are red in nature, like real analysis. I thought I'll finish it in a month, but it took, after 2 months, I realized I kept on doing the same for 2 months. And after the end of 2 months, I did not understand a thing. So again, I started. It took me 3 months for doing real analysis. Algebra, I didn't finish till now. So, but I spent around 1.5 months on algebra, right? I thought I'll do it earlier, but not. So, what the point is that you have limited time. The key is that if you're finding yourself comfortable with some particular topic, do them as quickly as is possible. ODE I was comfortable with. I thought I will do it in 15 days. I did it in 10 days only. Okay, linear algebra also 1 week. But others which I was not comfortable with, 3D geometry, it took more than 20 days. So things like that. Okay, thank you.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I have two questions. First is during that 5 days from the GS4 paper to the optional paper,
Yes.
how to manage the time or how to revise this thing along with the languages to papers. We have to give
Right.
that means. And the second question is that we are in an interview. What extra preparation we need to do as a maths as an optional? So
Right. Okay. So in those 5 days, firstly, I would not recommend you to do anything, language related. I think languages are very easy papers. Even if you go and write today, now if I ask you to write, you will clear the exam. If you have chosen the language that you have, done in your 10th class. Other than that, except, just, I think I didn't even do anything. And there is not much you need to do. And if there is anything that you need to do it beforehand only. Okay, suppose if you're preparing for in between after prelims to mains, someday you might be feeling low, not wanting to do anything. Just get out an English paper or Hindi paper if that's your language, solve it. And the rest 5 days in between to have that maintain that same level of you know uh, you know uh, performance in mathematics. What you need to do is that just see how well you are solving the easiest of the easiest questions, because that's where you will lose most of the marks. Okay, so that's what I did not look at all difficult questions or anything. 5 days, just the easiest questions. And I solved also, maybe I used to solve half an hour some 3-4 questions, and just to see that okay, I'm not out of touch. Because for the last 3 days, 5 GS papers I have given, GS and essay. Okay, so my hand now is physically out of touch with mathematics. It happens, so just solve the easiest questions. And in the 5 days, that's all. That's more than what you need. Your preparation ends before the GS begins only. GS exam papers begin. And for the second question, for interview, they used to ask a lot of questions about mathematics, but now they're not asking, because optional is something that you've already done and know a lot about. Okay, what they might ask is how relevant your optional will be, not just in your job but in general in today's world. So how mathematics is helping fight coronavirus, for example, right? So those kind of things, very simple. And many people before me have created notes on it. I have created notes on it. Use them, and something current is happening, just add to it. There's not much to worry about in this case. Okay, very less. I don't see anybody this year. I had a lot of friends with maths optional. Nobody was asked anything from maths optional, right? Okay. Okay, anybody else? Done? Okay, nobody. Yes.
आपके जो जीएस के नंबर थे उसमें
हाँ।
काफी ज्यादा मतलब इम्प्रूवमेंट हुआ फर्स्ट
हाँ
अटेम्प्ट में और
हाँ
सेकंड
हाँ
में, तो वो क्या चेंजेस किए थे आपने?
Okay, how have I improved in GS 1 and 2? Although this is not about GS, I'll just answer it in a very quick line. It was that I had, so this was when I wrote my mains. Okay, and I had almost how many? 6-7 months of preparation. In fact, I lost 1 month. I didn't prepare anything. So If I'm writing with 6 months of preparation, I will get less marks. I had more preparation in my second attempt. I had those marks. The point is that I just followed one particular rule in my first attempt, that I have to give 7 and 11 minutes to every question. I have to attempt all the questions. That's all. With or without content, I have no idea. I have left a lot of questions, pages also, right? Because I have no content. This time I had content. That's all. Same with mathematics also. I did around 60% of the syllabus here, and rest of the all the things that I told about time taking, how space management, time management, I did here. The syllabus was not finished. Syllabus was finished. The result is clear, right? 70 marks improvement, 68. Any other question? Okay.
Sir, in maths optional, we already familiar with answer writing in graduation only.
Yes.
But in GS answer writing, so how can we improve the GS answer writing?
GS, I think this is not a platform, but GS answer writing, I will talk about it. I have a channel. I will share a lot of content on my channel. It's just that this is not the platform for it, so I don't want to answer. But the answer will be a very long one, so I will share it on my Telegram channel.
But while preparing maths optional, we are daily practicing PYQs.
Yes.
So in that preparation only, we are already writing good answers in answer writing in maths optional. So, but in GS paper, we are not able to write anything like that crisp answer like maths.
There is no crisp answer in GS per se, and by crisp I think you mean a perfect answer.
Yeah, for optimum maximum.
Yes. So I don't think there is a perfect answer, but the very starting, even I used to write very bad answer, poor answers. But I think the starting point for me was toppers copies, like everybody does. I used to pick out. In fact, the top Miss Shruti Sharma's copies had helped me to understand and improve a lot of things that I was, not even aware of before. So I think that's a starting point. And second, when you take tests, whatever feedback they are giving, please take that very carefully. In maths also, in GS also, please take that very carefully and do implement every bit of that feedback in your next test. If you're not implementing, there is no point in taking the test. That's how you improve. I had improved after 3 to 4 tests itself. If you see my first copy and fourth copy, it will be very different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir,
hello.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sir, everyone recommend ki follow toppers notes, but UPSC does not disclose toppers note. How can find toppers? For GS ke liye toppers notes?
Notes?
Yes.
The toppers disclose their own notes.
Sir, abhi suddenly you say ki follow toppers note for GS.
Toppers copies, you mean answer sheets?
Yes.
No, not the original ones, the mock test copies. So the coaching institutes will disclose them, or they themselves will disclose them. So you see those, because ultimately what I'm writing in here as tests, I will reproduce the same thing in the exam, na? So that's the logic behind it. Okay. Right? Okay.
So what do we have to incorporate it in our notes? The ones that are important or ones that we have difficulty in understanding or cramming?
Pardon, I didn't get your question.
So what do we have to incorporate in our notes?
Everything that's in the syllabus, and that's what I was telling you.
The ones that are important, the ones that we are having difficulty in understanding.
Which one do you think should be there? You tell me. Whether it's things that are important or whether it's things that you find difficult.
So if there's something that is important, that I'm quite good at it.
Huh?
So is it that I have to note it down on the copy notes?
No. So this is the part, na? So if there are some topics where I thought I was comfortable with, so I didn't note them down. But that is what it is. Whether you can judge yourself in such a manner that you know it, whether you know it in a way that UPSC will appreciate it, or UPSC will give marks, is something that the question is that can you be 100% sure that this is what you know? Okay, it's just not what you know, but it's what you know that UPSC will give marks for. If that is what you know, then why do you want to make notes? No need for that, right? So I think science and technology, for example, I didn't make any notes. So I knew some topics that I was.
Sir, I'm talking about notes in mathematics.
Mathematics also. So mathematics also, I don't think you. But I think mathematics, you make notes, because one thing is that even if you know that particular topic, you might need it for solving any other topic also. So that way some applications will be new, right? And secondly, sometimes if you skip, there will be a logical sequence of different topics in mathematics that you need to do. If you skip one topic in between, then it will seem like a missing tile, right? So for I don't know, I think I find it incomplete if I don't do it with math, but not the same with GS. Okay, for maths I would suggest you do write everything, right? Or if you don't have the time to write, take any topper's notes or see from it, right? Okay.
Sir, hello, sir. How much time we should devote to prelims, because these days prelims are getting more difficult
Yes, yes. Prelims, we are still in
because
mathematics
elimination
optional.
method is not working
Yes.
there.
Okay, prelims. The thing is, usually you take 2 to 3 months. You stop your preparation 2 to 3 months before the prelims. And the one thing I'll just say is that when you're preparing now, you're at an early stage of preparing. Don't prepare it in a way that you have to prepare differently for prelims and mains. If you do that, then I think you will already be out of the game, unlike other people. Because you see the questions that are being asked, they have relevance from multiple different contexts, whether it's geopolitics, international relations, history, economics, environment. A lot of multiple dimensional questions are being asked, and you can't do a different preparation for it. And secondly, when you're reading newspapers, focus on the issues, not on the news. Focus on the deep issues that are happening. And thirdly, I will say, last thing, previous year's questions, what used to happen until now is that one, you had a lot of elimination techniques or guessing techniques, right? So if A, B, C, D was the option, if you could guess, you could guess between B and C for say. You used to leave out A and D, right? So you only cared about B and D when you were solving previous year's questions also in prelims. But now you have to look at A, option D. Even if it's not relevant to that particular question, you have to see that also, why it is happening. That's all I have to say regarding prelims.
And sir, you used to make notes from newspapers or not?
I did in ethics. I did. You know what I did? I told you, topic wise, bullet point wise, I used to make some notes. Then anything that comes up in newspapers with respect to that particular topic, say governance, I used to write 2 to 3 examples with red pen. That's all. So that formed my complete notes. I could only do it with ethics, not GS 1 2 3. Didn't have the time to do so. But that's all the notes that I made.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, so which calculator we have to use, as you have mentioned about graphical one?
No, I didn't mention a graphical calculator. Graphical calculator was any internet, is on the internet. When you're preparing, use a graphical calculator to visualize 3-dimensional images, how a plane is intersecting an ellipsoid, things like that. In the exam, there is a different calculator, scientific calculator that you have to take. Yeah. Yes, it was allowed for me in both the papers. Yes, okay. I think we are done. Then I hope you will do good, right? Yes, I will share the PPT. I have a Telegram channel also. I will just, so I think it's t.me. Okay. So there's a code inside that username. If you anybody can see, but that's okay. So I will share all the PPT on that also. There it is. Chalo, ठीक है. All the best. Thank you very much, everybody. All the very best. Thank you.